Thanks, Ranger Ryan and Mossy Megan. I'm Mr. Trevor, and I'm excited to kick off August Adventure with you. This week, I'm excited to share with you some important miracles that Jesus did in his ministry. Today, we're going to talk about a miracle that happened that relates to exactly what's happened to us this week in our own hometown. In case you didn't know, a hurricane by the name of Isaias came in on Tuesday and did all kinds of damage to even our church property. This big tree down and this sign broken is actually right in front of our church. So I started thinking, if I was going to be in a storm or in some crazy weather, what might be something that I bring with me? And the first thing I thought was an umbrella. So an umbrella keeps the rain from getting on you, and you could even turn it like this and it would keep the wind from getting blowing the rain on you. So an umbrella is a huge part of something that you might need in a storm. Well, today we're going to talk about Jesus calming the storm. But do you think that Jesus needed an umbrella to calm the storm? I don't think so. I'm excited to dive in together with you and we see if Jesus actually needs that umbrella or if he has the power to do it himself. Okay, friends, let's dive in together. Today our story comes in the book of Mark, and I'm excited to bring it to you. Today we're talking about Jesus calming the storm on the Sea of Galilee. So, Jesus had spent all day preaching and telling about all the great things that he was doing and telling about God's word. And he decided that him and his disciples needed to go on the boat and go fishing. So they loaded up on the boat and went way out into the middle of the ocean. Well, when they got to the middle of the ocean, a big storm came, just like a hurricane, just like Hurricane Isaias. So a big storm came, waves were crashing over, and the wind was blowing, and water was starting to get in the boat. And in case you don't know, when water starts to get in the boat, down it goes. So the disciples were like, oh no, the boat is sinking. And if you remember, Jesus had spent all day preaching and was super busy. And when I have a really busy day and I've been in my classroom all day, the first thing that I want to do is probably not go on a boat and go fishing. So what do you think that Jesus did? Well, we can turn in the Bible to Mark chapter 4, verse 38, and it says, "But Jesus was asleep in the stern, asleep on a cushion, and they woke him up saying, 'Teacher, do you not care that we're perishing?'" So, here they are in the middle of the ocean, big waves, big wind, all kinds of crazy stuff, and Jesus is taking a nap. Exactly what I would want to do after a busy day, taking a nap. But do you think that you or I could sleep during such a crazy event? I had a really hard time sleeping even during the hurricane this past week. So, but imagine being on a boat. How could he sleep? But what Jesus says at the end is what's so important. He says, or what the disciples said, "Teacher, don't you care that we're perishing? Don't you care that we're in danger?" Well, Jesus did care, but he had faith that the Father would protect them through all their situations. So Jesus woke up and said to them, in Mark chapter 4, verse 39 and 40, "And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, 'Peace, be still.' And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. He said to them, 'Why are you so afraid? Did you have no faith?'" Whoa. So I think about Jim Cantori on Riceville Beach. He can just tell me, "Here comes Hurricane Isaias, here he comes." He can't say, "Stop," and it be gone. But Jesus, in the midst of this huge storm, just said, "Peace, be still," and it was over. And then said to the disciples, "Why were you worried? Why were you worried? I was going to protect you." So the disciples had no faith, but Jesus the whole time knew that the Father was going to protect them in any situation. And finally, how would you feel if you were in this big storm and then somebody said, "Stop, peace, be still," and it was over? How do you think the disciples might have felt? Well, we actually get that answer to that question directly from the Bible. Again, in Mark chapter 4, this time in verse 41, it says, "And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, 'Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him?'" So they were so afraid because this storm was so big and so massive and their boat was sinking, and all Jesus had to do was say, "Peace, be still," and it was over. They were so amazed and so afraid, and they were so amazed that somebody had the power to stop such a big storm. Friends, we need to remember that even in our hardest times, Jesus is in control. The disciples' response is understandable when we compare God's strength and power to our own weakness. We, in compared to what God can do, are so weak. And so sometimes when God does something amazing, it can kind of frighten us and terrify us a little bit, just because our strength is so less than His. So remember, in any situation you may be in, a crazy storm like Hurricane Isaias, or COVID-19 like we're in right now, this unknown disease and unknown virus, just remember that God and Jesus always have your best interest in mind. So don't forget, friends, even though you may be afraid and things might look strange and weird, Jesus is always in control. Friends, I hope that you have a fantastic week. Don't forget to check out your activity sheets and your adventure pack, and I hope that you will join us back next week for another great week learning more miracles of Jesus together.